Welcome back. Today we're going to see about taking part of the farriers rasp that I started cutting on the other day. I'm going to try and turn it into a knife. So first time doing it, let's see how it comes out. Stick around.
First thing I needed to do was set the tang where I wanted it. So I did a drop, just kind of push the material back up into itself and draw it out. It's a fairly easy thing, you just got to make sure everything stays nice and square.
Alright, I like that. Now, we're going to cut it off about here. Start working on the blade.
So the first thing I'd like to mention is that tool steel, even for a farrier rasp, is quite tough. You want to work it real nice and warm, first things first, and secondly, if you're going to cut it like I'm doing right here, you want to have a very nice, sharp, hot cut tool.
Now, to knock this piece a little bit back up in here and lengthen the whole piece out.
Now, you don't want to knock the chin in too much where it's going to meet the handguard and stuff like that. You just want to knock it back enough to where it'll be nice and square. You want to lengthen out the piece, but you don't want to bring that in too far or else the whole symmetry of your knife goes off. Now again, make sure that everything's nice and hot and just start working the blade until you get the desired shape you want. Sometimes things move the way you think, sometimes they don't. Just have an idea. Now once you have the general shape of your knife, you're going to start working on the blade. Now I would like to mention at this point here that I was going to go for what's called a sax style knife, but because I'm using a rounding hammer and I didn't realize it at the time, when I started hammering that edge in, it actually started pushing the tip out of shape. I tried to keep it in place, but it ended up just moving, kind of bringing it back. It actually helped with the shape of the knife, and I thought it looked better than the Celtic sax style for this specific knife, but just be aware of what you're doing and how things change.
So here's how it ended out so far. After a little bit more shaping and making sure that the edge was straight and fullered out and everything else like that, I decided, things move a little bit, and I've decided I'm going to cut that off right there where the soapstone is. I was trying to go for a little bit of a different style, but honestly I think it would look better without that tip, so I'm just going to cut that off. Then I'm going to take it to the grinding phase and then heat treat. So that's what's next. So I changed my mind for a moment. I'm going to heat it up, then I'm going to let it sit on the anvil and normalize, because I pounded the crap out of that thing, and you don't want to be causing issues and stress fractures and whatnot. So I'm going to let it normalize, then I'm going to grind, then I'm going to heat treat. So that's the plan.
So I've already normalized the piece and I've decided to move on to the grinding phase. Normalizing is fairly easy. You just heat it up to a really critical temperature and then let it sit and naturally cool. So this is just basic grinding.
Now what I'm going to do for tempering is I'm heating the back side of the blade. When I pull it out, I'm going to quench the blade itself, but not the back side. I'm going to pull it out, let it sit for a second, and I'm going to let that heat kind of temper it and bring it back down. So the blade part will be hardened, and then the heat that it keeps coming through from the backside will temper it back just a little bit, and then I'll quench the whole thing. I saw a technique like this for a gentleman doing an axe from Sweden. So it was like, well, the same thing could be applied to a bunch of different stuff. There we go. Blade is quenched. Give it a second. Watch that color start seeping in there. Came out pretty nice. Let me get it cleaned up and I'll show you. And here she is all cleaned up. Now, I've got to get a handle put on it and I've got to finish sharpening it. You know, the last little sharpen there. So here's what we ended up with. It's a hidden tang knife, brass piece here for the knuckle guard, deer antler handle. Sits real nice in the hand. I like how it fits. Can't go wrong. I had to epoxy it in there. I would have liked to have pinned it, but I didn't have any pin material. Anyway, first time doing it. You know, it's not bad. So, there we go. Check you next time.